If you're a driven, active person who wants to reach and pursue a higher quality life with some ambition, then guess what? This podcast is for you. This is the Driven Athlete Podcast. This is a really interesting topic to me. I by no means am I an expert, and this is not my field, right? But it's just something that I'm really interested in, that I feel like I wanted to continue to practice for my own life and see how it can really benefit stability. All right. So the thought would being like, with what I've heard from a lot of mentors and a lot of wise individuals and other thought leaders in the industry of health, wellness, fitness, entrepreneurship, management, whatever, is emotional management. It's not like suppressing or avoiding emotions, or controlling your emotions. It's just management, because I feel like, as my own life experience and people I've talked with and things that I've heard from mentors and experts, if emotions come and go, and they're always going to happen. We're emotional beings, right? So it's not like emotions aren't going to happen or that they shouldn't happen, because we have to validate to ourselves like, yo, it's okay to feel stressed sometimes, right? And anxious, but it's just management. Manage the roller coaster. And if we can manage the roller coaster in an appropriate way, that's not huge valleys and huge peaks, right? If you ever met people, and by no means am I perfect, but times of like flying off the handle, right? This person always flies off the handle, or they're just like super volatile with their emotions, or they can't handle a lot of things out of system that are unforeseen. I'm like, all right, let me reflect on that and be aware of my own, and then how can I apply it to myself, right? I just think it's very interesting. So with that being said, the other thing that I've heard from mentors, first, the most important thing is just knowing yourself. And I'm like, all right, well, what does that mean, right? Knowing how you handle things, the lens in which you perceive the world, and typically how you react to stuff, right? So knowing yourself so that you can set yourself up for successful expectations of how you might handle stuff as it comes and goes, right? Or engaging with people and conversations and stuff. And then followed by that would be efforts to just manage emotions, emotional management. All right. And the reason why this is important, I think, is because I used to think that physical health, physical well-being was the most important thing in life, like the most valuable thing, which I've actually had second thoughts on that. I think mental health and emotional regulation, mental tranquility, emotional tranquility is the most important thing, right? Because there's been plenty of people that don't have good physical health, but they would suggest and say that they're in a really good, joyful place in their life. So I'm like, man, that makes total sense. Or on the opposite end, people that are struggling in tough situations in their life, right? There's a tough walk of life that they're currently in, and there's a lot of emotional turmoil. Just constant emotional turmoil is absolutely rough, right? It's terrible. It's debilitating. Like it's hard to live life like that. So I'm like, man, I'm going to apply that to myself. So what if we can take purposeful action for solid emotional management, for emotional tranquility and solid mental health state? And then in addition to that, play roles of taking action in physical health. You do both, right? It'd be awesome. Like, physically healthy, but also like be emotionally in a solid, joyful, tranquil, not tumultuous spot. Of course, it's not going to happen day to day, every day. And actually, we need struggle and we need suffering. That's my opinion. Because that ultimately leads to, when you don't have struggle and when you don't have emotional challenges and stress and suffering, you appreciate it more. There's more of an available openness for gratitude, because you've been there in the other spots. Imagine if somebody lived a super chill life and never had any stress, never had struggle, and never had any suffering. Would that be good? We've seen that. I've seen that before. People that have grown up in super, usually materially wealthy environments, and they've never had to struggle or develop any kind of grit or patience or gratitude. Like, they don't have any gratitude. They're just not available. They don't know otherwise. I'm not making fun of them or bashing anybody. I'm just saying they don't know otherwise, right? Another analogy with that is like people who live up north, like in Minnesota. The winters there are freaking brutal, dude. Like, I don't want to live there. But when spring comes around in like May, right? Sometimes June, which is crazy. It's absolute elation, right? It's an elation time. Like, people are outside and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Whereas here in sunny South Florida, like, we have two seasons. We have hot, and then we have like mildly warm, like occasionally chilly. You know what I mean? So it's hard to appreciate warm, sunny weather consistently if you've always grown up in it and lived in it. Where people who move here from the north are like, this is amazing. People who grew up here and lived here in South Florida, they're like, oh, I can't wait to go up and see the seasons and snow and stuff like that. And I was like, what do you mean, right? Talk the opposite. But anyway, with all that being said, like, we do need stress. We do need stress and struggle and suffering that ultimately helps with gratitude and appreciation and perspective on other things, which that's just my opinion. But anyway, so with all that being said, like, going back to what I was talking about in the topic of this, emotional management and knowing yourself first. All right, that's the key. So some thoughts I've had with that. If somebody is, here's what I've heard from experts and other thought leaders on this that I've taken in my own practice, and I just like this. I just wanted to share it with you guys. All right, I'm not preaching or telling what to do. I'm just saying, like, this has worked for me and I think it's cool. And then I'm going to share it. Of course, stress and anxiety happens. And the first step that I've found help with myself is I raise my hand and I'll verbally say out loud, I'm in the car, my office, whatever, I am stressed. I'm stressed, right? Or I'm anxious right now. I'm battling anxiety right now. Say it out loud, right? It helps to validate and appreciate that it's real versus trying to suppress and imagine and pretend like it's not happening, right? That's not going to help anything. And then the second step is say out loud, that's okay. It's okay to be stressed. Stress happens. Everybody gets stressed, right? If we weren't living stressed, we're not humans, all right? So it's totally fine. We can validate, it's okay. And it's a normal, natural thing to feel stressed on occasions. It's totally fine. So it's okay that you're stressed. Oh, okay, good. Now, third step, let's reflect. Why? What factors are leading to me feeling this stressful state or this anxiety state? Stress and anxiety are different, by the way. We're going to mention my own thoughts on this that I've heard from people in a sec, in a little bit. But third step, reflect. What factors are leading to me feeling stressed right now? Start naming them off, right? Physically, you can write them down, right? Or at least verbally say them out loud. Well, I have this going on in my house. I have this project that's going on. These people aren't getting back to me. My kids are making a huge mess in the kitchen, right? And they're throwing flour and rice everywhere. I have these to-do lists to do at work, and I have a deadline with this. I got to write these emails. I'm on my way to an appointment, and I might be late because there's a traffic light. There's traffic lights. I might hit a train. What if I get in an accident on the way, right? All these lists and factors, right? There's a lot. Usually there's a lot, right? A lot of moving parts, like maybe contributing to a stressful state that's all adding up and building up. So step one, I feel stressed. Step two, that's okay because everybody gets stressed. You're allowed to get stressed. Actually, with what you have going on, being stressed is totally appropriate, right? It makes sense. All right, cool. Step three, what are the factors leading me feeling this way? Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's look at this list. Immediately identify what things can you control and what things can you not control. I can't control my kids throwing, or at least I don't want to. I don't want to control my kids throwing rice and flour. I want them to be playful and active and enjoy a fun life and not be like under micromanagement all the time because of my emotions, by the way, right? I don't want that. I don't want my home life to be like that. So I can't control my kids' emotions and I can't control their actions. So I'm going to cross that off the list. I can't control traffic lights if I'm late. I can't. So I'm going to cross off the traffic light off the list. That's causing me stress. I'm going to cross that off. Can I cross off the train schedule? If I hit a train on the way with the traffic, can't control that either, right? I can't control the weather. I can't control the emotions of whoever I have my appointment with. Let's say I have to have a hard conversation with a significant other or spouse. Can I control their emotional reactions? No. So I have to cross that off the list too. But I need to have this hard conversation. Well, like, hey, I don't know if you knew, but I felt this way when we talked like this, whatever. So I'm going to immediately cross off the list. I can't control their emotional reactions, right? If the doctor that I'm going to see for an appointment has an attitude and poor bedside manner, I can't control that either. But that added to my stress. It was like a frustrating, totally understandable to be frustrated at that, but I can't control that person's emotions. So I have to cross that off the list. So on this list, I have things crossed off and things that are still not crossed off. So I'm crossing off the things I can't control. The things that are remaining are things I can control. All right, next step, let's prioritize. Of those things that are remaining that I can control, that it will help with tackling this stressful and anxious state that I'm currently in, what's the heaviest hitter? What's the one that's going to be the most impactful and going to move the needle the best? That's the priority. So we're going to prioritize what things are most important and prioritize the things that are, not prioritize the things that are not quite as important, right? Like there's a mess on the floor at home from the rice and flour that my kids are throwing around because they were helping us cook, which is supposed to be a fun bonding experience, right? But it's one more thing in my list I got to do to clean up when they go to bed. I'm like, darn it, and I'm going to be late to go to bed, or I'm going to have to stay up later to clean. Just one more thing, right? Well, I can't control their actions. I can't control their emotions. Let me reflect then on that is causing me stress. Like I have to clean up. Let me reflect. Why am I doing that in the first place? Well, it's because I want to have a cool, fun, warm, engaging, bonding environment with my children at home. And I know they're not going to be there forever, right? So I'm reflecting on that. Oh, that's okay. That's why that's happening, right? And I would rather have that and healthy kids than maybe the opposite, right? So at least there's some gratitude with that, and it's making me feel better. Let me reflect on why, right? I have a deadline with these projects at work. I have these emails I got to write. I got to have this hard conversation with so-and-so, whatever, right? What's the top priority? And start what actions then would be the best ones to chip away at, like what action plans would be the best strategies to chip away at those controllable actions and lists that you need to do, the items on the list, right? So I have a priority of these lists, and I'm writing an action plan for the first one that's the highest priority. What would make this situation better? I have a deadline for this project at work, right? Or school or like whatever. What would be the action plan to take steps forward in finishing this, right? Well, I need to write an outline. Okay, let's write an outline, right? And then I need to formulate the next step with that, whatever, right? So I have a list of action plans of how I can chip away at the heaviest hitting priority task. And the next priority, same thing, right? So then I'm just chipping away a little bit at a time on the controllable factors that are going to help eliminate all the stressing factors that contribute to this emotional state, right? That seems to be the best way that I've found to help remedy that situation, all right? The hardest part about that is first identifying and just recognizing and appreciating the ones that you can't control. Can't control the weather, can't control other people's emotions, can't control other people's reactions. I can't control traffic lights. I can't control the doctor's emotional state if they're don't have good bedside manners, being a jerk. I can't control the train schedule, all that stuff, right? Identifying what you can and can't control, I think, and then start working on things you can. I think that's going to be a game changer. So this has really just helped me, right? Because if something else I heard from mentors and stuff is like, as we gain more responsibilities and stuff and things pile on, stress and responsibilities don't lessen over time, right? You got kids, you got a business, you got to practice, you got management at work you got to work on. You have all these things add up. Things and stress and things that you need to tackle and responsibilities, they don't lessen. They actually increase and worsen. But if we want to, we can just become better at managing and handling it. Which at the end being like, what version of yourself do you want to be? You're going to be a better version of a gritty, resourceful, well emotionally managed individual that can handle a lot of moving parts at once and not fly off the handle or just like lose it, right? And these strategies have really helped me with that. That's what I'm sharing with you guys. I think another thing that I had heard from experts, right? This is not me. This is just experts that I'm sharing. There's a difference between stress and anxiety. Stress usually comes from a lot of things that are piling up and inaction. Not taking action usually leads to stress. I have like all these things I need to do, and stress usually comes from inaction and not taking steps forward, usually from a lack of clarity. And the clarity comes from these lists I was talking about before. Well, what things can I control? What things can I not control? It helps to minimize the list. And the things I can control, prioritize what's the most important. All right, this is a top priority. This is the biggest hitter. It's going to move the needle the most. It's the top priority right now. If it's time dependent or just the biggest, heaviest hitter. And then take action steps and break that down. Okay, imagine if I was an expert at tackling this task. What do you think an expert would do? Well, probably make an outline, probably would do this, probably would do that, and then start making a list of action plans, right, to tackle that top priority, right? It helps to minimize this mountain that a person feels like they need to climb to tackle that task, right? And you multiply that by like 15 tasks, that's a lot, and it gets super overwhelming, right? So constantly feeling overwhelmed and adding things to the plate that are piling up that you can't manage, and the stress usually comes from not taking action. Where I know personally, if I have a lot of those things going on, if I feel like I'm taking steps forward and chipping away a little bit at a time, like taking one bite of this massive elephant, one bite at a time, I feel a lot better. I know I'm making progress forward. I'm like tackling whatever's important right now, the task-wise, right? Responsibilities. So taking action a little bit, it just makes me feel a lot better. Like, okay, we're making steps forward. Cool. Whereas stress piles up from inaction and not actually taking action on them. Whereas anxiety is future-based, as in, as things come about, as future potential problems arise that haven't even come yet, but I imagine these problems are going to come about and come towards me, I won't be able to handle them. So I'm not going to be able to handle future problems as they come about. As they arise, I can't handle them. That's the thought of that is what leads to anxiety. That is anxiety. So that stress or that anxiety piles up. It's like, well, what if my kids don't do well with this? And then what if this happens? And then what if this happens? All these things that come about that we're imagining might happen future-based, that is anxiety. So stress is not taking action with things that you need to do, usually from a lack of clarity and not knowing what to do or what to do first, which looks like a huge mountain you need to climb. And it's like, I can't even do it anyway, right? It's just too overwhelming. Inaction, whereas stress is future-based and thinking you can't handle problems as they arise, right, in the future. And usually our imagination is way worse than reality. Just something else to consider too. It probably won't be that bad, right? So with all it being said, those things just help to take purposeful action steps for our own emotional management and the emotional roller coaster being a little more more well managed and less massive peaks and super low valleys, right? And that's just roller coaster of emotional states is no bueno, right? And so for family, people that have kids, like I don't want my house, my home to be that kind of an environment of like blow ups and then like elation and then like massively can't handle things and then like overwhelm and all that stuff. I don't want my children to be raised like that because they're going to pick up on that and they're going to be like that, right? So I don't want to do that. These strategies have just really helped, and that's why I'm sharing it. All right, so apply that with health, wellness, and fitness. If somebody's like, I want to lose weight, right? Or I want to tackle this back pain. I don't know what's going on, right? Well, first and foremost, raise your hand and say, I am stressed. Why? Because I want to lose weight and I don't like my current physique and health status. Okay, what factors can we do what factors have led to this, right? What factors usually cause that? Well, usually nutritional habits, portion size control, which we can control, a lack of exercise, and maybe a lack of scheduling and planning because we feel like we have a lot going on, right? All right. So what's the priority, right? What things can I control? What can I not control? Well, I can't control how I was raised in my family that led to certain nutritional habits being developed and processed of how we live. It's ingrained, right? Of just like, oh, we just eat Oreos and cookies. Like we just eat junk food and watch TV a lot, right? That's how I was raised. Didn't know otherwise. All right, well, we can't control that now because that's past. What we can control now is what do we do next, right? All right, can we control our portion sizes of food? Yes. Can we control what foods we decide to eat? Yes. Can we decide what food we get at the grocery store? Yes. All those things take a little bit of awareness and, of course, discipline, which is very hard. I'm not minimizing that. What else would help? What other things can I do to get to a physique fitness status that I want? Well, what if I exercised 45 minutes a day for 3 days a week? Well, that would work. All right. That would probably be on track for my goal. Perfect. Having an accountability partner also would probably be advantageous to consistently stay on this track. Cool. Next step, I'm very busy. Let's work through our schedule. And here's what I recommend. All right, this was told me by another mentor, and I have done this, and it's super enlightening and very it's interesting, but it really locks down a daily schedule. On an Excel spreadsheet, have 7 columns Sunday through Saturday, broken down each row in 30-minute increments, and write out exactly what you do during the day. What time do you wake up? What time do you drive to work? What time do you read, right? What time do you do if you reflect or devotional or whatever? What time do you get home from work? What time's your lunch? When you do get home from work, what are you doing, right? Exactly, right? It's a 30-minute commute. Cool. So if you leave work at 5:05 and you get home at 5:35 or 5:40, depending on traffic, right? Then what are you doing from 5:45 till bedtime? What time are you going to bed, right? What would be your perfect ideal schedule? And that way it's a little bit enlightening and sheds a little light on if I did want to work out for 45 minutes 3 times a week, right? Which is what, 2 hours and 15 minutes or something? Can you spare 2 hours and 15 minutes a week? It's very hard, but usually the answer is yes. Where can we find that time and shed off the other times that we're not using towards what we want our goal to be, right? So at least we can plan that. We can take step strategies on scheduling and planning. Cool. So we're working on nutrition. We're working on what we're actually buying at the grocery store. So it's not things are available at home, right? Helping with physique and weight loss and fitness, right? I'm going to implement 3 days a week of 45-minute workouts. I have my schedule laid out, and I have an accountability partner. Those strategies might help towards the goal, right? And then consistently doing that over time is what leads to the best results. Just a little bit all the time. And that's the last point I was going to make is not jumping off a cliff or completely bailing if we miss a day, right? Or 2 days or even a week, right? A person's not going to get jacked and ripped from one workout. They're also not going to get fat and overweight from a week of poor eating, right? Or a week of missing a workout. It takes 20 hours to make a significant difference of competency and momentum towards being a competent at a particular thing. So people will wait a decade to start those 20 hours of effort, right? That's 20 workouts, right? And if you go 3 times a week, that's 7 weeks. Imagine working out for 7 weeks for 45 minutes a day. That's like 20 hours, 21 hours. Imagining for 7 weeks. For 3 times, but 7 times 3 is 21, right, for hours. But the 45 minutes for 7 weeks, 3 days a week, there'd be significant changes would be noticed, right? That doesn't take that long. But the roller coaster of bailing because you missed one workout or you cheated on a meal or whatever, right? Or you just went ham on something, or a whole week even. A person's not going to get in extreme shape with a week or one meal or 2 meals even, and a person's not going to get fat and out of shape by doing that, right? So you're not going to get jacked and ripped, and you're not going to get fat. So let's minimize this roller coaster and not just bail. Just immediately start where you left off and just continue. And over time, when consistently making effort towards that direction, discipline is built and habits are formed, and that's when momentum is built. And then usually with that, it just re-encourages and reinforces the same actions over and over and over, and apply that for years and years and years. And that's where lifestyle habits are maintained, and a person's a different person, right? Those are things that I've heard from experts, other thought leaders, and mentors that I've had that I've tried to apply in my own life. By no means am I perfect, but I just try to, as best as I can, root back to that stuff and apply it myself so that I can take action on emotional management for the sake of my children and my family home and my business and my employees and my patients, right? And my own health and wellness. And then also just reflecting and gratitude. I think those are super important. I know it's all like cliche and trendy right now, like manifesting gratitude or whatever. But these are the things that I've done that I think are really helpful. So if you have any questions, like give that stuff a try, see what you think, read up on this. I'm always open to other suggestions, insights, questions, comments, concerns, or conflicting opinions. I'm always open to ideas. Those are things right now that I feel like have been really helpful for me. So give that stuff a try, and I'm always interested to hear what you have to think too.